To be honest, I think my proudest accomplishment was actually coming to Channel 12. The thing that I remember the most as a young person right out of college trying to get that job was everybody wanted to work at Channel 12. And I had to go to COV first in order to come to Channel 12. And when Bob Howell offered me the weekend anchor and the general assignments reporter position, I was ecstatic. It was the fact that I was able to work for a station that believed in the news team and understood the role that we played and treated us as though we were important members of the company. And I cannot imagine being a journalist in Alabama, or in the Southeast for that matter, and not wanting to be at Channel 12. So I came back to Montgomery in the fall of '84, eventually became the political reporter, or Goat Hill reporter, whatever you want to call it, and ended up covering the governor's office and the legislature, and then of course still anchoring the weekends. I think probably the biggest political story in Alabama's history would be two. One would be the retirement of George Wallace. I was fortunate to be able to cover his retirement announcement at the legislature in 1986. And then in 1986 and 1987, we had the gubernatorial election, and Charlie Graddick, the then Attorney General, was actually elected, but the Democratic Party stripped him of that nomination and gave it to Lieutenant Governor Bill Baxley, which gave rise to the Republican Party in the state. So I think those two stories, the rise of the Republican Party and the retirement of George Wallace, were probably the two biggest political stories of my generation. The co-workers were absolutely the best. And when I say that, I mean that with all sincerity. The fact of the matter is, when we were all together, we were a team. And I cannot remember a time where people felt as though that they were by themselves or that they were a one-man show. Everybody realized that they had a job to do and they had to get it done. But also the fact that the advertising team and the production team and the news team, we all got along. We all hung out. We went out after work. I mean, it was one big team, and so I think that that's definitely the thing I remember the most and that I miss the most, and that's the people. I really do think that was the biggest part of my life at WSFA, was the fact that I was able to make such long-lasting friendships and still carry most of them with me today. Of course, we've lost a couple, which is very sad, but the ones that are remaining, we're still close today. So I'm very thankful for that opportunity. Norman Lumpkin. When I came to Channel 12, Norman and I had already known each other for about 2 years because of my previous employment at COV. Norman kind of took me under his wing, and the very first story that I was able to go out on was with him. We had a state representative who had a cross burned in his yard, and they sent Norman to interview him to find out what he thought about that. And I was brand new, so I didn't say a word. I just kind of stood off to the side. And Norman asked the gentleman, "What did you think about that?" And the gentleman said, well, he hated it and he wished that people wouldn't take to that extreme, and he thought that it was was not very kind. And Norman just stopped the interview and told him, "Cut the BS and tell me what you really think." And that taught me from the very beginning that the story was the most important thing, and to get the story, not just what people wanted you to know, but to get the story. So I've really looked to Norman as my mentor. It's the people that make WSFA, and the opportunity to be able to work with some of the absolute best professionals in the business and learn from them, but then still years later have an opportunity when you see them or talk to them or Facebook them or whatever you do, the fact that you still feel like you're as close as you were in 1985. Absolutely the best. I cannot think of another station that has done what WSFA has done in the years that formed E&G News Gathering. The fact that when I started at COV, they were still video, they were still film. Channel 12 had already made the transition to videotape, and I was sitting there splicing film at night, trying to make sure that my photos and the voice synced up. And when it went on the air, you had no idea if it was going to break. And I used to sit and watch Channel 12, and I used to think, you know, golly, why can't I work for a station like that? Well, because they have put their priority as their news product. And so I think absolutely the best. I think anybody, again, that is watching television news understands the place that WSFA has, not only in Alabama history, but in the Southeast and in this country, because of the contributions that the reporters and the anchors have made to national news. So I think it's extremely important that folks know how important WSFA is.